Previously.
I'm already aware of the fact that I've got an antenna on the top of this craft that I'm probably going to have to fold away. So I'm starting to think about, what do I get to do and what don't I get to do? You can see I've lined the science up on the right hand side because I was aware of the fact that we might not be able to do science. We go through the initial heating phase and stuff reasonably quickly. It's actually sped up really fast here. When the parachutes finally open, slow us so far down, we are taking so much time to just slowly float down. Finally we hit down and you'll see we're in the ocean. Welcome back to basics. So today we are going to Eeloo. I have never landed on Eeloo before. I've put this craft together. I'm not going to go through the building too much. It's basically the normal launch stage we've used the last few missions, with an extra tank of liquid fuel just to give us a little bit of extra delta V. And we've got a little lander on the top there, a couple of tiny little ant engines, some big solar panels because out at Eeloo the solar power that we get is going to be limited. So we're going to just launch it up into orbit very nicely. It's very much the same sort of craft that we've been sending up before. Eeloo is a planet that was added after I think all the others as a sort of Christmas Easter egg, Christmas bonus many years ago, and it is an ice planet. It is primarily on the outer track of the orbit. It's supposed to mimic sort of Pluto at the time, or the Uranus sort of Neptune type system on the outside. Its orbit is not circular in the way that the other planets are. It's actually got an elliptic orbit, which means that for part of its orbit it's actually closer to Kerbol than Joule. And so you can, if you get the right transfer window, get there reasonably easily. Other times it's a long way out and it can take a lot of delta V. So we've packed a lot of delta V in this craft, and I have not put on a science junior or anything like that. We've basically got very limited science equipment because it is a sort of proof of concept. I've never landed on Eeloo before. I don't know what to expect. I'm pretty sure the last time I sent an orbiter there, Eeloo was pretty much flat, so I don't know if they've changed the surface or not. It is a white ice planet. Hopefully it's easy to land on. It has very low gravity, so something very similar to the Mun, in fact, I believe. So that's what I basically planned for, an equivalent of a Mun lander, possibly a little bit higher. So we get up into orbit and then we look for basically an ejection burn. And we're going sort of prograde from Kerbin because we want to go outwards. We want to head outwards in the planets. And you'll see, as I mess around there, I just avoided a Joule encounter. You can actually see the two outer rings there were Joule and Eeloo. They actually don't interact because they are in a set of resonance orbits. And I can't remember the ratio, but basically every X number of times that Joule goes round, Eeloo goes around X plus 1 or something like that. So they always keep away from each other. So here we are. We're trying to sort out our burn, and you'll notice that I think I decided on the end to go with just aim it out there and get a close encounter. The Eeloo is on quite a significant inclination. I don't believe it's as bad as Moho, or it might be as bad as Dres. But one thing you can do to really save delta V for this is try and do these transfers at the ascending or descending node point, and we're actually quite near to the descending. I think it's the descending node, or the ascending node. But so the plane change we might have got away without if we were willing to. I think in the end we actually did a plane change. Then we'll see it later. That was I probably didn't need to do as much as I did. So the burn for Eeloo even sped up, and this is 4 times normal speed right now. Even sped up with a single nuclear engine on a tiny craft like this takes a long time. You'll see we spend time just getting out there, avoiding the Joule encounter there. So we could have actually gone straight to Joule, and that's an option. We may have to look at that in the future. It does suggest that with a little bit of fuel you can always get to Joule. And there we are. We set up our Kerbal alarm clock. If you have a good look there, you might be able to see some other missions that are underway. I'm using Kerbal alarm clock just because we have quite a few missions running concurrently. So now something a little different. So far in the series 2, we haven't actually really done much with Kerbals. We've sent a lot of probes out there. I want to do something with Kerbals, but as with any space program, our Kerbals are only really used to life in and around Kerbin. So we need to prepare them otherwise. So we're going to send up a space station, and this is going to be something that we do in the background while we're doing other missions. So today we're launching the core of the space station. It's very simple. We've sent up 2 of the veterans there just to make sure it happens. You'll see that it's an odd little craft. We've got basically a storage unit. We've got a lander cam that's being reused as basically a command unit, and on one end we have what looks like a little pod that we can return to Kerbin with, and at the other end you can actually see there's some small junior docking ports. So what we do is we get ourselves into a reasonably circular orbit, do a little bit of fine-tuning of our burn, and then we release our launch stage. And yes, I know I have left the launch stage in orbit yet again. We're continuing to build up rubbish everywhere, right? And this is where we're gonna reposition this. So this was launched in line so that if anything went wrong, I could actually try and get them out. It turns out the Kerbals were actually in the space station, not in this pod. So what I actually am doing now is I'm just bringing it around to docking, and then I do a little cheat. I could rotate it round and spin it around the craft, but what I actually do is I just go, you know what, it's a small craft, we'll just point at. So we take control with both of them, and we do, I think this is the MacLeod patented docking system approach thing of get the 2 docking ports to basically target each other. But I didn't do that. That's what I was planning on doing. I actually just fixed one to normal and one to radial out, and vice versa, radial in and radial out, to try and get them to just do this, because I realised I had not put the tech onto them to allow it to do that, because we didn't have the target ability. So there we go, we put them into the normal position. So we've got our big docking ports up and down. You see I've got another little docking port on the other side for another craft. So this we will expand in time. So back to our Eeloo craft. We've gone through and we've now reached a point. I think we're outside the sphere of influence of Kerbin, and we start to play around a little bit because we want to try and get that interaction a little better. And we're going to do a little bit of a plane change, in actual fact. So we did a little bit of I believe it was it's a normal burn, just to sort of bring that plane alignment in. And actually, to be fair, as I said before, this could have been a lot cheaper for us. You can go without such a big plane change. You saw we had a sort of an interaction there. We could have got just into the sphere of influence and then done something there. But you're in deep space. You're on a plane change position, and again we just bring it in. You can see Eeloo is a very small little planet there. Planetoid planet. Yeah, it's a planet. I play around a bit there, and I do jump around a bit because it takes very little to do that. And then it's just a matter of waiting, and a lot of the Eeloo missions, if you plan to just do an Eeloo mission, is just waiting. You see the time warp there is on max, and if you're spinning through time and you're doing years, even with that, it takes a long time for Kerbal to do it. Go into the tracking station and do it, because it will be quicker. Or you can get mods that will actually speed it up. So we're approaching Eeloo, and I'm trying to decide what I want to do, and I decide, right, we're just going to capture. And this burn took an absolute age. It actually felt like forever. You'll see, I don't believe I haven't actually got a maneuver node on there. All I'm doing is I've waited until I get to periaps where it's most efficient, and I've just burned retrograde and just burning. And occasionally I'll turn off retrograde just to try and keep the periaps that I now form up a little bit, because I'm a bit worried about it. We get a capture burn, and then we start getting the maneuver nodes out, and I want to go polar. I want to go polar because I want to try and go over as many biomes as possible, and I also, because I'm aware of the reliance on solar power, I want to try and keep us in the sunlight as much as possible and in communication with Kerbin as much as possible, both of which are towards the center of the system. So we want to basically run across that day-night boundary, and that's what I'm trying to do right now. I play around with the maneuvers. I took quite a few attempts at this just to get it right. You'll notice if you just play the normal or the radial, you will often end up accidentally with your maneuver node sending you out into interplanetary space, because it's low gravity here. So you end up having to counteract that. If you're putting energy into a system, even if you're redirecting the movement, Pythagoras and all that sort of stuff, 4 this way and 3 that way ends up with, say, it's 16 the other way, and that's basically what you're trying to do. So you do actually end up sort of counterintuitively burning against sort of the useful way sometimes, but be aware of that with your maneuver nodes. So the next step is just science. We just run around the planet and check science, and you can just see me just checking, and then time warping. And the time warping is so that I can actually charge the batteries up. They don't have huge batteries on here. The antenna is set to transmit partial science because I don't have big enough battery to actually to transmit the whole thing. What would I change in this mission in the future? I would probably put batteries on the main craft, actually additional batteries, and then the lander, keep it as it is. So we've done the outer orbital science, and then we bring our orbit down, and then we start doing science from close to Eeloo. And it's the same process. We basically just do some science, time warp, do some science. And you can see by positioning ourselves on the sort of day-night boundary, we can just continue to get solar power all the day there. Now, we do dip down quite low at times, but we're constantly able to get that sunlight power. And it makes this a lot quicker. Even so, this is sped up at 9 times normal speed, and you'll see I was fast forwarding as well, and when you get this low you get limited. So a lot of this movement, this took quite a while to do. So we've got as much science as I can really be bothered to get, and it's time to land. I'll be honest with you, I looked at the landing site and what I was going to go for, and in my head Eeloo was flat. It isn't. There is actually some uneven surfaces. It's not just artistic. I'm pretty sure it used to be reasonably artistic. It was reasonably a flat ball. But we come down, and I realise that we're actually potentially going to land in that valley, and I start to get a little worried here. You'll see we burn the nuclear engines, and then I'm aware that the engines on this craft, this lander at the very start there, are not as strong as they might be. And so I'm burning off a lot of speed there. I could have gone more suicide burning. I did not. I was quite paranoid about the crashing into the surface. This craft would probably take a decent speed in the crash, but my main concern was damaging the solar panels. If we damage the solar panels, there is no use whatsoever to landing this craft because we do not have enough battery power to do much with it. We get one set of science results from it. So I was very aware of what was actually happening here, and so I did a lot of burning, fast forwarding time a little bit, letting us fall and go down. Not the most efficient, but again, overbuilt craft. I think I was pretty concerned about having enough delta V to carry this out. It's a long task, and particularly because this series is interlinking missions, I couldn't come back and redo things in probably the way you could if you were just playing on your own. So, overbuilt. I could send a science junior in future. I would normally, ideally, if you're going to go to Eeloo, get the radioactive decay power supplies and things like that. So, we get low down, and I'm going to bring it back to normal speed here, and you can see just the sort of speed that we're coming down. Nice and easy, really. Just even now we're still using those engines on 50% and just plop it down nicely. Now, if I was looking at this in the future, I'd probably put the solar panels away, but I was paranoid that something would go horribly wrong. So there we are on Eeloo, and it's a case of just do the science, get the science done. We're in the most distant place in the Kerbal system. Get some science. I fold away the solar panels just because I want to see what it looks like more than anything else. I think that is probably the most lonely craft in this entire series. And that's where we get to. Eeloo is an ice-cold rock. Will we be sending Kerbals there? Possibly, I don't know. Please, if you think we should, comment down below. I do think we will have to spend another craft at least, though. And I can imagine Kerbals going, but I think it will be probably later on in the series when we've actually got more science. So, as you can see now, this is sort of semi-real time. So this is as if you were playing. And I've kept this in just to show you. The power supply that you are getting on Eeloo is low. And even though we've landed on that day-night interface, the sun it will drop below the horizon because we're actually we're in a slight valley, which was not brilliantly planned. So you'll see we'll come round, and also it's day and night just in general. The sun comes round, wonderful, we love it, and we're just going to get as much energy as we can. But just to run that first set of experiments takes all that time. Okay, we're actually trying to fast forward as much as possible. And again, the risk in fast forwarding when you're doing something like this is that when you stop fast forwarding, your craft might jump up and explode. So that was one of the problems I was concerned of. I can't revert this. I can't go back and reload or anything like this. This series is very much you see me fail as I fail. So we finish off the science, which just takes time. Just takes time getting all of the electricity. And that's pretty much it. So that is the end of our Eeloo mission. Hopefully we'll be returning, hopefully in the future with Kerbals. But as we haven't even got a space station, we haven't even really left Kerbin yet. That's going to be a while, possibly the end of the series. So until next time, please like, subscribe, comment down below. Have a good one.